The Albany Stratton VA Medical Center was under investigation. Part 1. The collapsing of his lungs. This is the journal diary of what happened from Part 1 to Part 35. Copyright 2018 by Narcissists Poison You Inside Out, as well as the Albany VA Medical Center channel, and all rights reserved, may not be reproduced in whole or in part. You do not have permission to use for commercial purposes or for personal gain. Just give me 1 second, please. The other channel is more precisely Albany VA Medical Center was under investigation. I created a part because my files were too much buried under my work at Narcissists Poison You Inside Out. So I wanted to make sure that people see it. Part 1, October 18, 2006. By the way, if I'm not going quick enough to your taste, you can select settings and then select speed, and you can put the speed at 1.25. October 16, 2006. I have more than enough, and that's why I am publishing what's going on in all my personal blogs. It was published on my blogs at that time. October 10, 2006. My husband told to the VA clinic his situation got worse and made them understand he needed to be hospitalized, but they didn't hear. October 13, 2006, around 3:15 p.m., Ash called the VA clinic again to have an appointment. They told it was too late for having an appointment the same day because Mrs. was finishing at 4 p.m. So they gave him an appointment on Monday 16, 2006 at 11 a.m. I must immediately mention the lungs of my husband were more filled than the first time he went to the emergency, and they were filled about 90%. This is what a doctor said, 90% filled, so that means his lungs could collapse at any time, and it says when he called them around 3:15 p.m. to take an appointment, it was an emergency. Not sure he was aware of that, but he sure was not feeling well. He mentioned them he was not feeling well, but I'm not sure, and I don't want to say things that, I want to really tell things like they were. So for certain, he mentioned them that he was not feeling well at all. And they told him to call next Monday because she was leaving at 4 p.m. So this was this is in retrospective that at that time he didn't know, but his lungs were filled at 90% of liquid. They could collapse at any time, and it was an emergency. October 16, 2006 at 11 a.m. They realized my husband didn't have insurance, so it added a delay to get his room. We got it at 2:30 p.m. in the afternoon. He had the VA insurance, but he didn't have personal insurance. So we got the room 3 hours 30 minutes later. That was just the beginning of a fight to get a service. October 17, 2006, all sorts of tests were performed. October the 18th, 2006. The two doctors told Ash it was preferable to not do the surgery to remove the liquid in his lungs simply because they don't have the necessary equipment and they don't have the fresh flows and plasma to replace the blood, which was a must for my husband, that if something would be wrong in the process, they were scared he would die. So we decided he would go to a real VA hospital instead of this VA clinic. You have to fight to get a bed on another doctor's territory, and this doctor from another territory have to talk to his team, even if your case is urgent. It's because he was in the territory of Syracuse and there was no bed available, so we had to work on getting a bed at the Albany Stratton VA Medical Center. His lungs were collapsing. I'm going to continue. I forgot to mention that the oxygen in my husband's blood is going lower and lower, which is not a good sign. And also, I should add, he wasn't able to eat tonight because he was too weak to chew his food. They told the VA hospital in Syracuse, New York, don't have a bed for Ash. They didn't tell how bad Ash was going to the social worker, so she figured he was okay to wait until a bed would be available in Syracuse, which could take at least a week. So I decided to see her and inform her, and she realized my late husband, my husband's life was in danger. He was in the intensive care, and I informed her of that, as well as the fact that he was drowning in his own liquid, not to mention that his lungs could collapse at any time. So she communicated with the VA hospital in Albany, New York, and I made sure they have a fresh frozen plasma and that my husband will go there by ambulance and will be back by DAV van from the VA hospital to the clinic. My husband's doctor talked to the doctor in the Albany hospital, and the doctor of the Albany hospital had a meeting to see if they will accept Ash or not, because Ash is not on their territory. Red tape. I must say, my husband was seeking help to this VA clinic since a while. First, the stupid lady at the reception asked him to fill his VA application, which was a nonsense simply because he already was on a VA pension. Like he explained to them, if he would have filled the paper they were requesting him to fill, then he could be considered or perceived as somebody wanting to get 2 paychecks instead of 1. Believe me, we will live near a big real VA hospital to avoid this red tape the next time. This is back then. In 2006 I wrote this. Then I was praying to get things expedited because I felt totally overwhelmed by this red tape and the situation. Ash surgery is pretty straightforward, like the two doctors told him this morning, but it is all the red tape around because he is like not being on the VA hospital boat between commas simply because he is in a VA clinic. They should close this VA clinic because they are just trying to imitate an hospital just to give a false impression. The population around, the veteran population around is safe. I must tell that I don't have a driver license because at that time they were playing with my green card. Because this doctor in Albany would already have met me. The Albany Stratton VA Medical Center was under investigation, Part 2 and 3. He suffocated twice. All right reserved, may not be reproduced in whole or in part, and you do not have permission to use for commercial purposes or personal gain. Part 2, October 19, 2006. I'll make sure they'll do the surgery tonight in this village because the doctor in Albany with his team are responsible that Ash suffocated twice so far. In other words, they are playing with his life. Part 3. October 19, 2006. The social worker didn't have the good information about Ash's health in the first place. In other words, somebody incompetent gave her the wrong information. So I met her around 12 a.m. She heard me and I updated her. But this was just starting. Since yesterday, around 12 a.m., the doctor or the doctor's team at the Albany Hospital played around the bush. My husband had the time to suffocate twice because of the incompetence and heartless who were on our way during those 4 days. They made him wait until it would be almost too late. The only one who really helped us in this village was the social worker. She had a heart and a brain, and she believes there is a God. I hope my husband is not suffocating again on his way to Albany 4-hour trip, and I hope his lungs won't collapse because with all this fluid, they could at any time. It will enter at 6:30 p.m. and if they will keep their promises, they will do the surgery as soon as he will get there. Like I said, they made us wait until it would be almost too late. They made us wait until his condition would be very critical. The Albany Stratton VA Medical Center was under investigation, Part 4 to 6. Hospital red tape. All right reserved, may not be reproduced in whole or in part. Part 4. Ash was transferred at the VA hospital in Albany for sure. They said as soon as he would enter there, they would have his surgery done. He is there since 8 p.m. I just called him at 8:45 p.m. and they didn't begin the surgery yet because I talked to him right now. As a reminder, Ash's lungs are almost all filled, so that means they could collapse anytime. He also suffocated twice because of the red tape. He is waiting to have his lungs fixed. Since 11 a.m. last Monday. Tomorrow we are Friday. 1 business week passed. Ash is strong and tough, but he has limits. He could die before their surgery. Please call 518-626-6400 and tell them that we want Reverend Ash Buchanan to live. His life isn't safe when he's waiting for this straightforward and easy procedure to be done. The nurses do what they can, but they cannot prevent his lungs to collapse, nor they can prevent Ash to suffocate, because there is not enough space in his lungs anymore. So, 1 business week passed. Part 5, October 19, 2006. My husband just told me on the phone they will do the surgery in very few minutes. It is now 11:05 p.m. For the few who are concerned, that's the perfect timing to pray for Reverend Ash Buchanan because, as I already said, his state is very critical because of the incompetence and red tape. It's really too much to wait 4 very long days. Well, it was 1 week at that point. And as a reminder, the doctor said they were 90% filled. He wasn't that critical when he entered at the VA clinic on October 16, 2006 at 11 a.m. His state is now extremely critical. Part 6, October 20th, 2006, about 3:30 p.m. I must fight to get a DAV van from this village to Malone and from Malone to here. I was his wife. I'm now his widow. Let me explain, it's a territory business. If Ash would be hospitalized to Syracuse, they would give me a ride from this village to Syracuse back and forth, which was a 160 miles ride, but they don't give me this little ride from this village to Malone, which is just 35 miles. There is no public transportation in this village. I cannot take a taxi cab because it would cost, at that time, $232 back and forth for 70 miles back and forth, and I just don't have it in my pockets because we were living on a single VA pension yet at that time, even though we were a couple, and I was with him. The bureaucracy is so quick. We are waiting since at least 2 months to get the pension adjustment, which is not very much, less than $900 a month for a 100% disabled vet. So that's a big chunk on $900, less than $900 for 2 people. $232 back and forth was really a big chunk on the pension. And why my husband chose this village is because, we didn't see each other for 19 months because of immigration, so it chose the nearest territory from where I was. If it was not for this social worker in this VA clinic in this village, my husband would have died already by suffocation because of the combination of incompetence and hospital red tape. I know I'm repeating myself. It was very disturbing. It was very stressful, so I was repeating myself. Thank you, Elena. Also, Vicky called the Albany VA hospital to make sure that Ash would get the intervention yesterday, so to speak. October 20th, 2006 at 4:50 p.m. It is now 4:50 p.m. and I just received a call from the DAV van service from Albany, and the mister just told me there is no service from Malone to Albany because the 2 volunteers are not available. It's a free service for veterans accomplished on a voluntary basis. One of them is on vacation and the other is having a surgery, so even if I would give you the phone number to contact the DAV event service, I wouldn't have the service from Malone to Albany back and forth anyway. I don't, so it is very sad because we spent 19 months and a half on the phone without being able to see each other, not even to take a cup of coffee in a restaurant. The reason why I chose the Albany VA hospital is because Ash would die by suffocation, or his lung would have collapsed already if we would have waited for Syracuse VA hospital. It is very sad because I am the only person who would and could visit him and he cannot see me. He chose this village because he wanted to be as near as possible from. In other words, he didn't want to have to wait 6 hours to see me, so he was as near as possible he possibly could without being on the Canadian territory. So we were parted again. I was in this village and Ash was in Albany and no DAV event service. If Ash would be there for just 1 or 2 days, I wouldn't publish this, but it is about a week. That's pretty sad. The VA clinics should simply close simply because it is just an illusion to have services you don't have. It's a sick joke. Now part 7 to part 9, the 3.5 inch diameter hose. Part 7, October the 20th, 2006. Ash needs another surgery first thing tomorrow morning for his lungs again because they filled back up right after the first surgery. By the way, Chris, his nurse, didn't know my husband suffocated twice. He learned that from me. So if he knows enough his profession, then he realized Ash's life was in danger before his admission to the Albany VA Medical Center. Again, it is because of this red tape and incompetence. I think important to take note of this word. They are acting professionally once Ash was admitted to this hospital. Looks like it. We'll see if I'll be satisfied with their services. Please join me in prayers. The part 8, October the 22nd, 2006. I hate the fact Ash had an excruciating pain because they put a hose about 3.5 inch of diameter to remove the fluid again, and I truly hope this pain is not in vain. I truly hope they are very competent in the Albany hospital, but we found out otherwise. Such a stressful situation to have to fight with the hospitals. At least Ash is out of danger, because once they admit him at the Albany hospital, I think between commas, he was okay between commas, but that took 2 extra days there, even though they had a bed and all the necessary equipment for him, simply because Ash wasn't in their territory. He was on the Syracuse territory. Instead, I repeat, I know I am, because it was stressful, so I made things very clear in my personal journal. So I am not very happy about them, nor I am happy about the incompetence who didn't give the good information to Elena, the social worker in the VA clinic. So there is no way for me to visit my husband, even if usually they are providing a DAV van for the spouses of the veterans. when my husband needs me the most. Ash is an honorably discharged disabled Vietnam veteran. Part 9, October 22nd, 2006. I just talked to Ash about 10 minutes because he isn't feeling well, and like he said, between commas, I don't feel my life is in danger yet, but I'm not feeling very well. The host he has inside, I just cannot understand, and what happened is unbelievable. There is no transport for me, even if the vets have the service of a DAV van, free transport, and a free hotel usually. We don't get those services in this village. Because we had to start asking those services in this village in order to get them at the Albany Stratton VA Medical Center, right? Right. Part 10 and 11, Too Much Ammonia. Same title. The Albany Stratton VA Medical Center was under investigation. October 23rd, 2006. I remember Ash was extremely sleepy about 4:30 p.m. this afternoon, but now his condition got worse. Diane, his nurse, told me all he's saying is just a word. I wonder what they are doing to my husband, and there's no way for me to go to Albany. October 23rd. October 23rd, 2006. They gave him too much ammonia in his food. The level of ammonia in his body was too high. And that's why my husband was feeling so bad. Since that never happened to Ash since 2 years, I was wondering what they were doing to him. I was worrying and being stressed because my husband never felt that bad in 2 years, even if his ammonia got high in the past. In other words, it never got that worse. Quote, if your diet is not properly balanced, that is, if it fails to supply adequate amounts of the essential amino acids, sooner or later, this will become apparent as some type of physical disorder. This doesn't mean, however, that eating a diet containing enormous amounts of protein is the answer. In fact, it is unhealthy. And they put him with his bad liver, his sick liver, they put him on a high protein diet. That was the last thing to do. Because the liver is sick and has difficulty processing a large amount of meat. Excess protein puts undue stress on the kidneys and the liver, which are faced with processing the waste products of protein metabolism. Not to mention, by the way, that the Albany Stratton VA Medical Center proteins were, I would not give that to a dog. Continuing to read. And I could not give him, I could not bring him food because that was not possible, because otherwise could really put me in trouble with the VA hospital. So I had to go with what was going on. The only thing that was possible to do is work to get him out, which I did. Continuing to read. Nearly half of the amino acids in dietary protein are transformed into glucose by the liver and utilized to provide needed energy to the cells. This process results in a waste produce ammonia. Ammonia is toxic to the body, so the body protects itself by having the liver turn the ammonia into a much less toxic compound, urea, which is then carried through the bloodstream, filtered out by the kidneys, and excreted. As long as the protein intake is not too great and the liver is working properly, ammonia is neutralized almost as soon as it is produced, so it does no harm. However, if there is too much ammonia for the liver to cope with as a result of too much protein consumption, poor digestion, and or a defect in liver function, toxic levels may accumulate. This is exactly what was happening to my husband. This may put a person at risk for serious health problems, including encephalopathy, brain disease, or hepatic coma, which did happen to my husband, if you continue listening to what happened to us. Abnormally high levels of urea can also cause problems, including inflamed kidneys and back pain. Therefore, this is not the quantity, but the quality of protein in the diet that is important. See Diet and Nutrition in Part 1. I will put the link in the video description. I had to read it because I found it in the web archives because it is not on the internet anymore. So I had to go to the Wayback Machine to get that information. And I want to point to your attention that not only he was on high protein diet, but also the quality of protein in the hospital, at least at Albany Stratton VA Medical Center, is I wouldn't give it to a dog. So this is part 11. They caused the fact that he had too much ammonia because of what I just read. Part, I think I will skip that. It's the entire article. You just have to read it for yourself if you're interested. It's about the amino acids, and it's more, I was just been pointing the paragraphs that were applying to my husband's problems. Part 13 to 15. Ammonia, very toxic level. The Albany Stratton VA Medical Center was under investigation. Part 13. October 24th. I just called my husband at 5:30 p.m. for a few minutes because he was extremely tired. He was extremely tired also. About 11:30 a.m. this morning, the nurse offered me to talk to his physician. I'm not stupid, I know exactly what happened. Ash told me he had the impression he missed by a hair's breadth to die yesterday because the ammonia level was at a very toxic level. I needed to hit the road by bike even though it was raining 7 miles because I was not only sad, I was angry, and I needed to get the stress out of my chest, and stress doing exercises because it's therapeutic. But there was a lot of stress I was going already, too much stress already I was going through. I hope somebody have a heart to give me a ride to see my husband, but I am realistic. The reason why I'm posting what's going on since October the 16th, 2006. So in 8 days you see what already happened. It's because my husband almost died twice. Get it? Almost died twice. He suffocated twice at the hospital in this clinic, and they were not enough careful of the food they were giving to him at the Albany Stratton VA Medical Center, because Ash needs a specific diet because of his bad liver. And according to my late husband's words, he almost died, and according to the nurse's words, he was in danger, so something definitely really bad happened. So now you start understanding why I was starting to find a solution to get him out of there. But I was not able to drive a car. I was not even able to learn to drive a car because they were playing with my green card. Continuing to read. October 24th. Although I just called my husband, and the doctor-physician said it may be the pills which may cause this very high level of ammonia. At that time, I didn't know if it came from his diet or the pills. For now, I will surely later. In other words, when I wrote this journal, I wasn't aware that the high-protein diet was a problem as of yet. This is in retrospective, years after his death, but not years. Because if I would already knew that the high-protein diet was a problem, then I would already said something about it. But at that point, I still thought that they knew what they were doing, at least more than me. But in fact, they knew less than me what they were doing. And I'm not a doctor. So I did not know October 24, 2006. I didn't know if it came from his diet or the pills for now. Actually, will later. Yes, I did, sure. Later. The thing is, the high-protein diet, I realized before he was out of the Albany Stratton VA Medical Center. A bit before they changed his diet because I complained. But we will get to that. But yes, they finally changed his diet. It was. In fact, in retrospect, it was way too late, because the damage to his liver was done already. It was at the very end of his hospitalization to this supposedly hospital. And the doctor-physician saying that might be the pills causing is a very high level of ammonia. You cannot make guesses with patients because you may cause their death even though it's not what you're looking for. I have all the reasons to be stressed because my husband almost died 3 times so far since October the 16th, 2006. So in an 8-day period, he almost died 3 times. I think it is more likely, you're more likely to die in a VA hospital than to die on the road, according to the statistics. To my knowledge, there are no statistics comparing the deaths VA hospitals versus the road. If you can avoid the hospitals, please do, especially the VA hospitals. And if you cannot, then just go there for what is really and truly necessary. And unfortunately, my late husband really was in a bind. His lungs were about 90% filled with liquid, so he didn't have much of a choice. And it was an emergency. Part 15. I forgot to mention in this tourism experience between commas, the two guys operating the ambulance from this village to the Albany VA Medical Center didn't know exactly where they were going. So they turned around at Albany, New York for a while my husband was having an excruciating pain. Ash was talking to them, but they were not hearing him because he was just a patient, between commas, versus they were the professionals, between commas. Ash told them the MapQuest is not the most reliable source, even though it is a good one. For cases such as this one, I don't think when you are in an ambulance, it is time for you to have a tourism experience, a tour of the town, when you are having an excruciating pain on top of it. I thought the problem was that we were living in a village. No, it was not the case. Problem was a little more complicated with the VA hospital system. Most of them are not very much competent. They are there to learn. When you're between life and death, I do not believe it is a good timing for them to get experience on you and use you as their guinea pig. This is what I was thinking back then. October the 24th, 2006. I think I will stop for now. Thanks for listening. I usually do not mention to please subscribe and please talk about my channel to the people you care about and those who can benefit from it, but because it's obvious to me, I didn't think I had to say that.